Sex in the control room at the jail. Here we go again, folks. Something that taints the image of all those officers who don't get involved in these games. Hall County Jail in Georgia. Now, this report came out a couple of months ago. I missed it. It was just brought to my attention by a correction officer friend of mine in Florida, not Georgia, by the way. But I won't give the name, of course. But anyway, this is something that is taboo. Oh, don't talk about it. But folks, it's already out on the news and in the newspapers. So back in December. So let's talk about what we can do to stop these kinds of things and why aren't they being stopped. And there's a lot of officers out there complaining about why these type of things aren't being stopped. Now, this wasn't just a one-time sexual encounter in the control room, and I'm going to read from my notes so I don't get it wrong. There were truth or dare games going on the night shift at the jail. And if you had the truth or dare, you would flash body parts at each other, male and female officers. They were giving each other oral sex, licking breasts of co-workers, sex between co-workers, and oral sex between co-workers, leaving the jail unsupervised while these events were going on. Wow. Well, you know, in my time in correction, state and jail, we've had officers get caught and lose their jobs over having sex in the prison or in the jail with each other. We're not talking about staff inmate sex. This whole incident has nothing to do with the inmates other than they were unsupervised. And while they were having their games and fun, the inmates were probably doing the same thing. They didn't have to worry about being supervised on the night shift. They were smoking their drugs, shooting up, tattooing, having sex with each other, and all these wonderful things, I'm sure, were going on in the jail while the officers played their truth or dare games. Now, they also had fight nights, the investigation revealed. And when I say the investigation revealed, the officers themselves, many of them admitted what was going on once the investigation started. Like a lot of investigations, they denied it at first, but as time went on, officers came forward and said, yes, this is what went on, I was involved. And they reported they also had fight nights, officers grappling with each other. A supervisor tased an officer in one of the incidents, not because the officer was attacking anyone, they were goofing around. This was all on the night shift at the Hall County Jail. Now, one officer and one sergeant resigned prior to being fired. They apparently knew they were going to be fired anyway, so they resigned. The lieutenant, or a lieutenant, had enough time, he went ahead and retired. Several were suspended without pay for a number of days. One of the female officers admitted having sex in the control room and having oral sex with two male officers in the control room. Well, you know, if this is happening at one jail, could it be happening somewhere else? I say yes. I say yes, it could be happening somewhere else, and it probably is happening somewhere else, and it may happen tonight. I'm making a video this evening here on March 1st, and I believe tonight this could probably happen somewhere in the United States at a prison or a jail. Now, one officer reported that this had been brought to supervisors' attention a couple of times, and here we go again with somebody not listening. You know, we're told to report incidents. No, not snitch. If it's something that you can handle by going to your coworkers and talking to them, again, as we always say, by all means do that. This type of incident, if everybody's having sex, flashing body parts, and licking each other on the night shift, I think that's too far gone to approach them. It's time to go to the supervisor. But call it snitching if you will. We need to clean house and get rid of these people and get people that want to work and be professional. So, and management ignored it. And you know, this has happened in many other places as well. Management doesn't want to hear these type of things in some cases. There's a lot of management that will get on it fast, okay? Don't get me wrong, but there's some management that it falls on deaf ears. They don't want to believe it's happening, or they don't want to look into it further because it will embarrass the agency. Folks, it's going to embarrass the agency anyway. It's going to come out sooner or later. You know, toe rubbing, toe licking, massaging each other in the shoulders, massaging each other's feet. That's all not for the workplace, folks. When you get off work, get in your cars, get a hotel room, have fun, or get a suite, and the whole damn shift can get in there and lick each other's toes. But that's up to you. But not while you're on duty, okay? The jail, a dirty damn jail. Oh my God, it's dirty enough in there, you know, that when you go in, if you're like me, you want to clean your control room and make sure the inmates are cleaning their pod. And I like to have a somewhat clean environment to work in. But now we're talking about, not only are we in a dirty jail, we're going to start licking each other and oral sex and leaving that for the day shift when they come in. Now, you know, there's a lot of officers that don't like this. It makes them very mad. Taints the image of the hard-working officers, and I don't blame them. You know, save your sex and toe licking for off duty is all I can say. And then if something happens with your marriage or your relationships, you can take it to civil court down at the courthouse. Keep it away from the jail. Keep all your stuff outside and down at the courthouse and family court or so forth. So anyway, or divorce court or whatever you want to call it. But this is just sickening. Later this week, I'm going to have a video on about 20 comments that were made on an article I wrote. I wrote an article about the few bad apples. I'm sorry, on visitors bringing drugs in, because the visitors do attempt to bring drugs in, and I was totally amazed at how many people read the article and commented, "What about the officers?" These are all correctional officers who said this, folks. Not meaning all officers. They're meaning those few bad apples. I said, wow, I wanted to write about the visitors bringing drugs in, which they do. We just caught 3 in Florida, and that was the topic, and how we're catching a lot of visitors. But I'm going to tell you some of those comments those officers said. That's telling you right now that the honest, hardworking officers don't want to ignore this stuff. They're sick of it. But for some reason, we still have a lot of managers that this falls on deaf ears. Not happening at my prison. Not happening at my jail. You know? And apparently, one of these officers that got in trouble on this sex in the control room incident decided he was going to start to tell all the bad things that have been going on at this jail for the past 2 years. Well, one officer said, if you feel something is wrong that needs to be taken care of, report it immediately, and don't save it until you're in trouble to try to bail your own ass out, okay? And that's true. If you see something happening that doesn't look right, tell somebody, and at least you've done your part. If management ignores it and they don't care about people rubbing each other's feet and shoulders until it hits the newspapers, that's their problem. But you've done your part, okay? But, you know, don't save it to, oh, now I'm in trouble. I did something wrong. So guess what? I'm going to tell you what's been going on for the last 2 years in this jail. They're going to look at you like, well, you can tell us and we'll take note, but it's not going to help you in your situation. You still did what you did, and you're still going to get punished. Folks, don't save up stuff. Tell it immediately. Go to the officer. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Or if it's criminal or sexual on nature on duty, you're going to have to find a supervisor that's not involved in it. Because in this case, a sergeant was involved in it and a lieutenant was involved in it. So what do you do when your night shift sergeant and lieutenant are involved in the fun and games? You're going to have to try to step out of the bounds there and talk to somebody. Anyway, hopefully we can get this basic stuff cleaned up. You know, I had one person, I always tell somebody, I told one person, I like to keep things basic and simple, because if we can't fix these basic and simple problems before we move to advanced things, then we're not doing any good. We can have all the advanced training we want, but until we fix this type of incident from happening, and we fix the few bad apples, we get rid of them and find a way to control that, we're going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, as they say. Not gaining much ground. Anyway, just tell me your thoughts. I vented it out, and you let me know what you think. Has your agency ever had this happen? If so, am I right? Does it need to be stopped? Somebody might be laughing right now, but it does need to be stopped. And I'll see you next week on that video on what officers are saying about the few bad apples tainting our image. Thank you for watching Gary York True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.